So I was researching, as one does, and I came across an article from Speculum, the Journal of Medieval Studies, from October 1947. This is an article called The Old Man of the Mountain by Charles Noel. And I learned something new about the Nizari Fedayeen, the historical assassins, that I hadn't read in any other source, and that's that they didn't wear armor into battle. Noel is citing Brother Yves de Breton, who is an envoy of King Louis of France, who writes, Les Bédouins, assassins, les Nizari, et pour ce ne se veulent armer quand ils vont à bataille. And then they sort of go on to say colloquially, Ainsi maudit sois-tu comme les France, qui sont pour peur de mort. Please pardon my French, it's not a language that I know. Basically, he's saying that the Nizaris accept that their death is inevitable or determined by God, so they don't wear armor because that would interfere with their predetermined death. But more importantly, they make fun of the French for wearing armor, saying that the French do so because they are afraid of death. My first thought when reading that passage was, man, we were so badass 1,000 years ago. But my second thought revolved around mental health, as it usually does. Because I've been going to therapy again, and I've been thinking a lot about my anxiety, and I'm worried about mostly other people's perceptions of me. And so I put up this armor. I act in certain ways, I avoid certain situations, I'm constantly stressing about outcomes and things that are not in my control, just like death is not in our control. So, much like the French in, what is this, the Third Crusade? I am afraid, so I put on armor. But the Nizaris don't. And that's something that I think I need to learn. Because so much of life is out of our control. And when we try to control it, or try to control how we handle those things that are outside of our control, we end up not only weighing ourselves down, but also missing a lot of opportunities that can be afforded to us. Whether it's death in the Crusades, or making new friends, or having new experiences today. So the Lego store has these passports that you can take to different stores and get a different stamp at each store. Here are some of my stamps from London and Sydney, and Canada and America. And when I moved here to London, I found out that they were doing a new stamp every month. Every month you can go to the store and get a new stamp for your passport, so I've been collecting those. Yesterday, I went to the Lego store in Leicester Square, and they told me they're not doing stamps anymore. They're still doing monthly stamps, but they're not getting any new ones. They're just reusing the ones that they already have. I liked getting the new stamps. It gave me a reason to visit the Lego store every month. So, I came up with a solution. I made my own stamp for Lego Store Passport. I'm going to be at the London Film and Comic Con this weekend on Friday and Sunday. So if you have your Lego passport, come ask for a stamp. Words like assassin and assassination are trending right now because you know why. I don't need to tell you. But where do those words actually come from? You may have seen a viral video on this app that says that the word assassin comes from a fringe religious group during the Crusades that would take a bunch of drugs and kill people. And that's not the most true. Oldest usage that we have of the word that would become assassin in European literature doesn't actually mean anything. The earliest records that we have are from European explorers in Syria in like the mid-12th century-ish, and they just said, here, north of Aleppo, here are the assassins. We don't know why they're called that. We don't know who they are. And then as Europeans started, talking to the people who live there, that description changed to, these are the assassins. They are like Muslims, but worse. The word assassins at that time in Arabic was used as a pejorative. More on that later. Then, as the Crusades kept crusading and everyone was sort of killing each other, the assassins became known for their covert ways of killing. And then the description became, here are the assassins, still north of Aleppo, they're known for sneaky stabbing. But then, when Europeans like King Louis and King Richard the Lionheart got in on this whole sneaky stab action, then the description became, European people are killing in the fashion, in the methods of the assassins. So it's still referring to the religious group, but now that word is only used to describe sneaky stabby. And then eventually the word assassin just came to mean somebody who sneaky stabs for money or for political reasons. And that whole evolution of the description from we don't know who the assassins are to assassins are sneaky stabbers for money and politics happened in about 40 years during the mid to late 12th century. This is fake, by the way. I don't know if I need to say that out loud. So that's why the word assassin means what it does today, but where does that word actually come from? So in the 10th century, seems like a good place to start, the Sunnis were ruling in Baghdad and the Shia were ruling in North Africa, and they didn't like each other. So the Abbasids, who are the Sunnis in Iraq, put together this whole corpus of literature trying to disprove Shia beliefs and hopefully use that to topple their government. It didn't do a whole bunch, but it did resort in a lot of name calling, and one of the most popular names is Mulhid, which, if you're reading about this in history books, you might come across that word. Mulhid, or Malahida is the plural, or Mulhite if it's poorly transliterated. Mulhid just means heretic or non-believer. It's a standard term. But another name that got really popular, especially in Syria, is Hashashi, or Hashashin is the plural, and that means heretic. That also means heretic. Well, in legal and religious context, it means heretic. But in social context, it means somebody of low social standing. That word, Hashashi, originally meant somebody who uses drugs. And that's where all the viral TikToks come from. But in this context, using the term Hashashin to refer to this specific Shi'i group near Aleppo and the other outposts in Syria, it has never meant drug user. Everyone who used that word in every record that we have, whether it's the Zaydis or the Abbasids or the Fatimids, they always used it in the religious context, and there isn't a single reference to drug use. Enough for the Europeans. So 200 years later, after the Europeans already had this new word for political and financial secret stabs, they find out that Hashashi originally meant drug user, and then they retrofit that into their assassin story. That's how the story went from assassins kill for no reason to assassins kill for political and financial reasons to 200 years later, assassins kill because they're on drugs. And it's so stupid because adding drugs into the story contradicts everything else in the story. These so-called assassins are supposed to be religious extremists in a religion that doesn't allow drugs. They're supposed to go undercover for months or even years at a time in order to get closer to their target, but also they're addicted to drugs the whole time. So even though there's no historical backing to these drug-fueled murder stories, and it doesn't make any sense logistically that that would happen, that's the story that's stuck around even till today. Thanks, Marco Polo. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I have a complicated relationship with the assassins. But Dan hasn't been following me for a while. Dan's brand new. Hi, Dan. So now seems like a good time to recap. The word assassin in this context was originally ascribed to the Nizaris. Nizaris are a group of Shia Muslims. And the reason that it went from Nizaris to murderers is because when the Fatimid Empire split in 1094, the Nizaris that sprung out of that didn't have an army. You can make the argument that the Fatimids barely had an army anyway, but the Nizaris definitely didn't. And this was not a peaceful time in the Middle East. When has there been a peaceful time in the Middle East? So these Nizaris were fighting against the Abbasids, their historical enemies, these Seljuks who were in cahoots with the Abbasids, the Fatimids, the ones that they just broke off from, the Ayyubids who usurped the Fatimids, also the Mongols and the Mamluks and the Crusaders. So how do you fight, or at least how do you defend yourself, if you don't have an army? So the Nizaris took up a little bit more of a strategic approach. Now, the Nizaris weren't the first people to do that. They weren't the best people to do that. They weren't even the most people to do that. I think over that 200-year period, there was maybe maximum 100 Nizari assassinations that are actually confirmed. But that's what got stuck in people's heads. So when we look at assassins in pop culture today, it's not just that they're secretly murdering people, but all the rest of the stories come with them. We think of assassins in Game of Thrones or Batman or Star Wars. It comes with all this extra baggage of they're a secretive group with mystical practices. Maybe drugs are involved. Maybe there's a little bit of Orientalism. So it started off as this religious group, and it has turned into a literary archetype. And then we have games like Assassin's Creed, and then all these viral videos that pop up that try to bridge that gap between the fictional archetype and that real-life religious group. But there really is no connection. It's just fantasy. Because a lot of these stories are written by European chroniclers, people tend to take them as historical fact. But if you actually examine the transmissions and look at these stories over time, the pattern becomes obvious. This is just people making stuff up and adding stuff on. Those birds are really loud. Can you hear them? And what really bums me out is that in this online landscape of edutainment, we're debunking historical myths all the time, but nobody's debunking the assassins. Every video that I see about the assassins is just reiterating the same historical myths over and over and over and over again. Then we have these TV shows and movies like El Hashashin, like Uyunush Buyuk Selçuklu, like Salah-ad-Din Ayyubi, like the other Salah-ad-Din Ayyubi TV show, that repeat these same historical myths and try to push them off as fact, but then they're more dramatic about it so that people believe them more. The only reason that I know what I know is because I work at an academic institution and I can get whatever journal article I want for free. And the books are really hard to get, especially translations of the original text. The Institute of Ismaili Studies, which is like the epicenter of Assassin's Legends research, anyone who's studying the Assassin's Legends, including Ubisoft, goes to them first. Their last book about it was published in 2005. It's a good book, but I don't think you can get it anywhere. The only other book before that was in 1994. But yeah, Assassin's Creed is cool and fun and interesting, but the story behind it goes so much deeper. And I wish there was a way I could share it with you.
Hey, what's the matter you, Altair?
That's racist.
You're racist.
Really? This is what you guys are doing?
Oh no, God forbid I take a break. I've only spent the past 3 fucking weeks inside that machine.
No, you're right. Let's all just screw around while the world falls to pieces.
Hey, this isn't easy, you know.
Right, like we're all on vacation out here?
Enough! Look, everyone's under a lot of pressure, but we're the only ones who can stop Abstergo, so we need to keep it together.
She's right. We need to be a hive mind, people.
Anybody up for some reconciliatory yoga? Anyone?
Very funny, guys.
Malik, before I go, there's something I should say.
Be out with it.
I've been a fool.
Normally I'd make no argument, but what is this? What are you talking about?
All this time, I never told you I was sorry. Too damn proud. You lost your arm because of me. Lost Qadar. You had every right to be angry.
I do not accept your apology.
I understand.
No, you don't. I do not accept your apology because you are not the same man who went with me into Solomon's temple. And so you have nothing to apologize for.
Malik.
Perhaps if I had not been so envious of you, I would not have been so careless myself. I'm just as much to blame.
Don't say such things.
We are one. As we share the glory of our victories, so too should we share the pain of our defeat. In this way, we grow closer. We grow stronger.
Thank you, brother.